An exclusive Fox 45 News conversation with a DPW whistleblower.
Anybody in charge of media relations should be looking to get the facts out to the public as quickly as possible.
Why he's suspicious of the latest water test results. A 15-year-old shot after a city school let out. What police are looking for as another school community is still in mourning. After the FBI raids North Avenue, Fox 45 News Project Baltimore gains insight into what they may have been after. Plus, the big decisions in the case against the city state's attorney affecting both sides less than 2 weeks from the trial.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Rielle Creighton. Our top story tonight, Mayor Brandon Scott giving another update on the contaminated water situation less than an hour ago.
Now, the mayor says he is lifting the boil water advisory for several impacted areas, including Baltimore County, although thousands of the people in West Baltimore still have to boil their tap water.
The reason there is a partial lifting and not a full lifting is that DPW is awaiting analytical data from the laboratory to confirm that there is no E. coli in the samples taken within the required boil water advisory and remaining area.
Now we'd like you to take a look at this. This is the updated interactive map on the right side of your screen. We have that on our website as well, foxbaltimore.com, along with a link to search by your address.
The mayor also announcing Baltimore City residents will receive 25% off their next water bill to make up for this inconvenience. It's not clear whether Baltimore County residents will also see a discount.
DPW is telling everyone in the affected areas to flush their water systems. That includes running all faucets on cold for 15 minutes, starting at the bottom of your home, then working your way up. There will be more instructions on how to do that on DPW's website.
Meantime, bottled water distribution will still be offered until further notice.
Now, Fox 45 News is hearing from a whistleblower inside DPW telling us there might not be able to trust those results.
Yeah, Jeff Abel joins us live with that exclusive interview. Jeff.
Well, we are disguising the employee's identity because he fears retaliation. But he is raising some real questions tonight, whether the water test performed by the city will be true test.
There is a culture of retaliation.
He's an employee at Baltimore's Department of Public Works who simply could not stand by without revealing the missteps in the city's probe of dirty water. His chief concern surrounds the city's delay in notifying the public about possible contaminants in their water.
The concerns are how little information was shared with the public initially, but yet privately information was being shared. Council members were being notified. An email was sent to police personnel not to drink their water. This seems like there was a decision made within the notification process of the Department of Public Works to triage people and their health based upon their zip code and their role.
The delay, he says, not only put people's health in danger, but also delayed the investigation because public input is key, he says, in tracing the source of the contaminants.
That cost us time. That cost us any real idea of how far this catastrophe is unfolding. And it put people's lives in danger.
To date, we have received 25 results back. All results were negative except for one location.
At a news conference today, the director of Public Works announced that the department is now taking hourly samples of water in the affected areas. But this employee questions if they will yield accurate results because often the tests, he says, are not random enough.
Those locations should be random. The fact that you go back and test the same locations again and again is not a truly random sample. I think I compare it to doing a poll. If you're always polling the same people, you tend to get the same answers.
He also questions why investigators independent of the city haven't been called in to test the water and issue independent findings. Instead, the city is performing the test at its own laboratory.
A truly independent third party needs to come in and say, yes, you're safe now.
You have my word, Baltimore, that we will get this issue resolved in a timely fashion.
After public scrutiny, the employee believes the city may now be on the right track after a delayed start, which he's convinced was fueled with the wrong intentions.
Your media relations people should be only responsible for putting out clear facts to the public for their consumption, and not how to spin something to make it look a little better or a little bit worse.
Well, the city maintains tonight it has been in complete compliance with state guidelines throughout this investigation. We are live. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Mayor Brandon Scott, meantime, tweeted out this timeline graphic tonight laying out who knew what and when. According to the mayor, the first routine test happened on Friday. It was then confirmed on Sunday. At that time, this graphic says the DPW began flushing the water system. We also know the DPW told the affected fire station its water was contaminated on Sunday, but it didn't inform the public until it tweeted about it at around 7:45 on Monday morning. In a statement last night, the mayor's office said that the mayor understands the frustrations and concerns of his constituents and regrets that the public wasn't more widely informed earlier than Monday. Fox 45 News questioned him about that statement today.
Why the regret, and what damage do you think was actually done?
Was the regret is simply about not being able to go through the process faster, Keith. As I just said to me, we want to get that information out as quickly as possible, but when you have to follow regulations, we're going to follow those regulations. And sometimes that causes us not to be able to do things that we want to do in the haste that we do. But again, I think for your viewers in particular, for folks to know is that we follow every regulation.
Fox 45 News still has some questions about the timeline and why the public was not informed earlier. We will continue to press for answers and keep you updated both on air and online.
5 days after a 17-year-old Merville High School student is shot and killed on school grounds during dismissal, another city school student is shot, this time outside Carver Vocational Technical High School in West Baltimore. Keith Daniels has been talking with community members in the wake of today's shooting. He joins us live now with more on what happened in that case. Keith, a real tragedy here.
Tragedy, Kai. Now, another student shot, and tonight police say the search is on for that suspect.
At the corner of North Smallwood and Pressman Streets, all clear now. No signs of the gun violence that unfolded moments before that left a 15-year-old student at Carver Vocational High School shot.
They had the little markers going all the way up the sidewalk. So
Roosevelt McNeil detailing the scene he saw. The student shot on this block, so close to his school's campus.
Firearms everywhere, everybody can get their hands on them.
Police say a group of students were walking down Smallwood at about 4 o'clock after school had dismissed when they heard gunfire. That's when one of the kids felt something had hit him. Police say he ran home where they discovered a gunshot wound. A bullet grazed his head. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
Wow. It's madness, man. I mean, people from all over the city come to this area, so it could have been anybody.
The shooting near Carver is the second time in less than a week that someone has been shot outside a Baltimore school after classes were dismissed. On Friday, someone shot and killed 17-year-old Jeremiah Brogdon on a parking lot at Mergenthaler Vocational Technical High School. Police say an argument triggered the violence. A 17-year-old student from another school arrested and charged in the murder. Mournful reaction at that shooting, disdain at this one.
I think it's an outrage. They just don't care, man. They really don't.
Well, the circumstances of that shooting still unclear. Police investigating. They're urging anyone with information to give them a call. You can remain anonymous by calling Metro Crime Stoppers. Reporting live tonight at City Police Headquarters, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby is back in court today for a pre-trial hearing. The trial is still set for September 19.
Well, today, a federal judge outlined what can and cannot be talked about during the trial. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost was in court and explains what's next.
Federal prosecutors will not be allowed to talk about previous investigations into Marilyn Mosby during the trial, but that's about the only victory Marilyn Mosby got in court on Wednesday. Marilyn Mosby stone-faced walking into court Wednesday ahead of another hearing before her trial. Her attorney, A. Scott Bolden, reiterating a familiar line from the Mosby team.
No discussion today whatsoever. No statements,
no plea deals. We're going to trial.
At issue now, whether prosecutors could say what Mosby used the nearly $90,000 she withdrew from her retirement on. Prosecutors say she used it to buy 2 Florida vacation homes. 2 perjury charges she's facing stem from Mosby telling the retirement holdings bank she suffered a COVID-19 related hardship. Prosecutors argue she made more money in 2020 than she did in 2019. The federal judge allowing prosecutors to talk about how Mosby spent the cash, which, according to defense attorney Jeremy Eldridge, who isn't involved in the trial, says is crucial for the jury to understand.
In order for a jury to determine whether Marilyn Mosby suffered financial hardship, the jury has to know what the money was used for.
It's unclear yet if the judge will allow the prosecutors to use the phrase financial hardship. Emerging as an important topic, Mosby's 3 side businesses she created while in office. In 2020, Mosby's spokesperson said the businesses, quote, were a long-term venture. She said, quote, there are no clients and Mosby has not received a single cent in revenue. There are no plans to operate the company while she is state's attorney. Now Mosby's defense team is prepared to say those businesses are what suffered during the pandemic.
If her income simply declined, which we now know it didn't, and she purchased 2 vacation homes to make a profit, the jury will have to decide whether she suffered any financial hardship. And that may be a difficult step.
After the hearing, Mosby was asked repeatedly about the businesses and the statements. Did you launch the business after you lost the primary? Have you had any conversations with Zai, your spokesperson, who made those comments? Mr. Bolden, when will you talk to the public about this? Ms. Mosby, do you have anything to say to your constituents who you are still serving right now? And for the 2 false mortgage application statement charges Mosby's facing for failing to disclose the $45,000 tax lien on her Baltimore home when she bought the 2 places in Florida, the defense says the mortgage company should have done their homework. Eldridge says that opens the door for questions about whether Marilyn Mosby's husband, City Council President Nick Mosby, takes the stand at trial.
The next question is, does he have any criminal liability? Is Marilyn Mosby going to put on, and it appears she will, an innocent spouse defense? And then it gets down to her level of education, the fact that she was the chief prosecutor for a major city, and whether a jury believes that someone seemingly so sophisticated could understand so little about her personal finances, and that'll be a question for the jury.
Mosby's team granted a motion blocking the government for bringing up previous investigations into the top prosecutor.
Actually pairs perfectly and logically with her decision to not allow evidence of political and racial animus.
The hearing, Eldridge says, is setting the stage for an even more information to come.
The first thing is the motions hearing today is the preamble to what looks like to being the clash of the titans, which is Marilyn Mosby and her defense team against the United States of America.
Jury selection is set to take place next Thursday and Friday, and the trial scheduled for September 19th. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Next on Fox 45 News at 10, new information about what the FBI may have been after while raiding North Avenue last month. Fox 45 News' Project Baltimore reports it may be linked to a story first reported 2 years ago. Plus, young victims and even younger suspects. Tonight, criticism growing louder for newly enacted laws some say shelter teens from consequences.
Rain will gradually taper overnight, then we're back to warmer and drier weather tomorrow. I'll let you know how hot it gets and how long the dry weather sticks around.
Joe Flacco helped lead the Ravens to a Super Bowl. Now he's a foe. Ahead, Lamar Jackson opens up about facing his one-time mentor. Tonight, we're learning more about what the FBI may have been after when it raided Baltimore City's school's headquarters last month.
As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, sources familiar with the FBI's investigation say it involves a Fox 45 News investigation from 2 years ago.
Fox 45 first broke the news.
There was an FBI search at City School headquarters Wednesday
when federal agents last month raided North Avenue. Soon after, we learned the FBI was looking into Dunbar High's school resource officer and 7-time state champion football coach Lawrence Smith.
Watch the ball!
Potentially over issues with overtime.
You know, they think that, football is my full-time job. But I let them know, I said, no, this blue uniform is what really pays my mortgage.
Project Baltimore looked at Smith's earnings and found as a school resource officer in 2018, he earned about $13,000 in overtime. We don't have his 2019 overtime earnings, but in 2020, his overtime spiked to nearly $68,000 and then $94,000 the year after. It's unclear why his overtime jumped so significantly. Smith is not commenting, but sources familiar with the raid tell Fox 45 that overtime is not the only issue under investigation. The other concerns a Project Baltimore report from 2020.
Throws this one deep downfield, caught!
And a deal Smith made with the A7FL. The A7FL is a 7-on-7 football league where players wear no helmets and no pads. Founded in 2015, the league has quickly grown to include 20 teams across the country, including in Baltimore. In summer 2020, Fox 45 News exposed how the multi-million-dollar league was using Dunbar High School's football field without the proper permits. At the time, we interviewed the league's regional commissioner, Marcus Cole, who said he worked out a deal to use the field.
My understanding is that we were covered. My relationship with the coaches and everyone else, with the partnership that we had, my assumption is that everything was okay.
In 2015, when the A7FL came to Baltimore, Cole said he partnered with an organization called Clear Path Athletics. According to the CEO of the A7FL, the deal was this: the league could use Dunbar's football field for free. In return, all revenue from ticket and concession sales would go to Clear Path.
We got good movement.
Founded by Lawrence Smith.
But Smith doesn't own Dunbar's football field. According to City Schools policy, he doesn't have the authority to rent it out. Students in Baltimore City are supposed to benefit from the fees generated by issuing permits. But in this case, it appears that didn't happen.
Recent calls and text messages to Smith have not been returned. But in 2020, he told Fox 45 that Clear Path Athletics allowed the A7FL to operate under its permit. So the A7FL wasn't paying permit fees to use Dunbar's field. And remember, all money from ticket and concession sales went to Clear Path. That's 3 sources of revenue that could have gone to Dunbar High School, but apparently did not. And then there's this. According to state records, Clear Path Athletics shut down in 2017, but the A7FL played at Dunbar's field for 5 seasons, from 2015 to 2019. During just the 2019 season, the league played 24 games at Dunbar. But if Clear Path shut down 2 years earlier, where was the money from ticket and concession sales going? Sources within Dunbar say it was never transferred to the school.
With moving forward, we would definitely go about doing things the right way and making sure everything's handled the way it's supposed to be handled.
After Project Baltimore first broke the A7FL story in 2020, city schools banned the league from the stadium. The A7FL then acquired the proper permits from city schools, and the partnership with Smith ended. I'm Chris Papst, and this is Project Baltimore.
The Howard County Public School System is getting the community's input on a new redistricting plan. The School Board of Education held its first public hearing on the proposed maps tonight, most parents opposing that plan.
Plan D places the burden of relieving the overcrowding on Elk Ridge students.
One would expect that redistricting for High School 13 would populate the new school with students who live closest to.
Well, there is another public hearing in 1 week from today, September 14. There will be another one October 19th if needed, and we have maps and redistricting information on our website, foxbaltimore.com/newslinks.
It has been a gray and gloomy day with rain throughout much of the day, but now we're starting to see things quiet down. That rain is tapering. However, there are still a few spots dealing with some light rain, and that's mainly for areas in Anne Arundel County close to the bay. Notice Annapolis seeing some showers right now, and then toward Cumberland also seeing some areas of rain, but the rest of us finally dealing with that mostly dry weather. Currently over Towson, it's still cloudy. Temperatures sit at 70 with winds out of the north-northeast around 8 miles per hour. Across the state, we're seeing those numbers in the 60s and in the 70s. We've been pretty steady throughout most of the day, and that's because of those clouds. As we head into the night, temperatures will gradually fall to the mid-60s, but we're in for warmer temperatures tomorrow. I'll let you know how hot it gets coming up in my full forecast. Back to you.
The ongoing water contamination crisis is just the Department of Public Works' latest controversy. We're taking a closer look at a history of problems.
I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington, where young people are increasingly behind some of the city's most heinous crimes. It's a trend that's happening elsewhere as well.
Joe Flacco played 11 seasons with the Baltimore Ravens. He started his career here, won Charm City a Super Bowl, and gave fans countless memories.
Including the only QB in Ravens history to sweep the division one year.
Okay.
But on Sunday, Flacco will face his former team for the very first time. Rocco DeSangro is here to tell us why. Rocco?
Yeah, Ravens fans don't want to see any more wins out of Joe Flacco just yet. Zach Wilson would normally start this game, but he's currently dealing with a knee injury. So enter Joe Flacco, the team's backup, who will get the start against the Ravens Sunday to open the 2022 campaign. On one side, you have the elite one, or so they say, Joe Flacco. On the other side, former unanimous MVP Lamar Jackson. Jackson and Flacco played one season together before he was traded to Denver, and the respect is mutual between the two players and teams. But while both quarterbacks have stolen the headlines this week, Jackson wants to set the record straight.
I'm not going against Joe, the defense is. I'm going against the Jets defense, but, he meant a lot playing with the Super Bowl quarterback.
I remember Joe's count, white 80. So I'm used to that a little bit, but it'll be good to see Joe again. I got a lot of respect for him. So hopefully he just plays decent. He doesn't play, and we play pretty well, but it'll be really good to see Joe again.
Like Lamar said, it's not him versus Joe. It's the Ravens versus the Jets. Coming up tonight, Morgan Adsick goes one-on-one with Ravens wideout Rashad Bateman ahead of Sunday's season opener. Plus, an update on the O's ahead on Sports Unlimited.
If you could shoot like an adult, you should go to jail like an adult.
Criticism from Maryland's juvenile justice system, why one expert says the entire system is broken.
We're still seeing the consequences for what the disgraced gun trace task force did years ago. How much money the city has lost as a result.
Our top story at 10:30, a 15-year-old boy is recovering after he was shot outside of Carver Vocational Technical High School after class today. Police say a bullet grazed his head. He is expected to be okay.
Well, it is just the latest example of youth violence in Baltimore. Just last week, police say a 17-year-old shot another 17-year-old at Mervo High School.
And in Baltimore County over the weekend, a 14-year-old freshman at Milford Mill Academy in Pikesville, or Milford Mill, was shot and killed near the school during a football game.
Well, Baltimore is not the only city in the country seeing a rise in youth violence. We have team coverage tonight. Sinclair National correspondent Christine Frizzell will have more on the national problem coming up in a few minutes.
We begin here in Maryland with a look at the new laws protecting juveniles from certain consequences. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor explains criticism of those laws is getting louder.
Yeah, while some say charging children with serious crimes is counterproductive, others argue if they're committing crimes like an adult, they should be held accountable like adults.
When it comes to the victims, we know their names and we've seen their faces. Last week, Jeremiah Brogdon gunned down in his high school parking lot. Last month, 15-year-old Nikayla Strotter shot in the head on her own front porch. But when it comes to their killers, those identities remain a mystery due to new Maryland laws.
This was a homicide. Unfortunate, a homicide happening to a child, by a child. And we're expecting accountability.
Going into effect this June, a list of sweeping juvenile justice reforms. Among the major changes, children under the age of 10 can't be charged with a crime at all, not as a juvenile and not as an adult. And anyone under the age of 18 can have their identities sealed regardless of the offense.
The juvenile justice system in Maryland right now is severely broken. It's not working. We're seeing juvenile crime skyrocket.
Noting an uptick in crime among young people, Sean Kennedy with the Maryland Public Policy Institute argues protecting the names of violent offenders, no matter their age, puts the public at risk.
We don't know what judges are doing to 17-year-old carjack murderers because there's no evidence that this case even exists. The fact that somebody had a long rap sheet as a juvenile, none of that information ever goes public, means that the public is basically in the dark about what's going on.
State Senator Jill Carter sponsoring the bill behind these protections. Following the shooting death of Strotter at the hands of a 9-year-old, Carter still standing by her legislation, writing, quote, "The juvenile justice reform bill is a model of best practices supported by science, data, and experts. Yet, nothing in the law would prevent a 9-year-old child alleged to have committed a heinous act from receiving developmentally appropriate intervention or rehabilitative programs, services, and treatment, leaving the public in the dark and the victim's family calling for change."
I just want justice. I just want justice. That's all I want.
If you could shoot like an adult, you should go to jail like an adult.
And tonight, we're still waiting to hear back from the city-state's attorney's office if the 17-year-old suspect in that Mervo High School shooting will be tried as an adult or not. Reporting in Baltimore, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, Baltimore City Councilman Zeke Cohen is pushing for a more holistic approach to conflict resolution. City leaders often point to a lack of conflict resolution skills as the fuel behind violent crime, especially among kids and teens. Well, now Councilman Cohen says the work needs to start in the classroom.
We need to teach de-escalation, conflict resolution, and restorative practices in all of our schools.
Right now, conflict resolution and restorative practices are only taught in less than a third of city public schools. Some parents argue those practices aren't enough, and children need to be held accountable.
What it tells me is we're afraid to have consequences for students. The schools don't want to be accountable because they don't want to look bad. And I'm like, but you're doing a disservice to our kids by not addressing this.
Well, we want to know, what do you think? Will meditation help curb crime in schools? So far, 92% of those who have voted say no. You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Many cities across the country are seeing a spike in juvenile crime. While most schools have reopened, there are concerns of a lasting impact from when those schools were closed because of the pandemic. Christine Frizzell reports city leaders and law enforcement are now looking for ways to fight back.
City and county leaders nationwide now taking drastic measures following a rise in crime. In Prince George's County, Maryland, vowing to enforce a curfew for juveniles, city leaders say are often out and unsupervised at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning.
Where are their parents? Where are the aunties? Where are the uncles and other family members who are responsible for them?
The crackdown following the deadliest month in the county's history, with 24 murders. In Chicago, the holiday weekend brought with it another round of staggering numbers. At least 55 people shot, 11 fatally. With continued concerns, pandemic-era school closures with a lack of services and structure have had a lasting impact.
A lot of parents went to work during the day thinking their teenagers were logged on for remote learning, only to find something else.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot earlier this year drew a direct line between remote learning and a spike in carjackings, with numbers showing a similar trend in Washington, D.C.
We've increased the number of kids that have been arrested for carjacking 2 to 1, outpacing the number of adults that have been arrested.
Bat, cat, tree. Despite most schools being back open, a teacher strike in Seattle has delayed the start to the new school year as teachers ask for more resources to help the students and better compensation. But some critics are reminded of the teachers' union's push for pandemic school closures and raising new concerns about juvenile crime. While in Baltimore recently, crimes are taking place at or near school grounds.
No one has any trepidation of being prosecuted or going to jail, and now it's a free-for-all.
Certainly these numbers and these trends are going to differ city by city, but we've seen increasingly it's an issue voters care about, with polls showing rising concerns about crime and safety could be among the top issues they'll consider in the November midterm elections. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
Another settlement will be handed out surrounding the failed gun trace task force in Baltimore. Today's $575,000 settlement stems from a 2015 traffic stop in which 3 Baltimore police officers recovered a gun from under a car's passenger seat. Plaintiffs claim the police had no probable cause to search that car. Nearly $15.5 million in settlements have now been paid out to the victims. 4 active cases have not been settled. Well, new video just released of a man who police say is the suspect in a deadly shooting on August 12th. Tony Matthews was found shot several times along Parkside Drive, and now there is an $8,000 reward for tips helping to solve this case. We have the video and pictures on FOX baltimore.com so that you can share them.
Continuing coverage right now of the water contamination problem in Baltimore. The boil water advisory is still in effect for a large portion of the city, despite the Department of Public Works saying all but one of its water tests at 25 sites across the city and Baltimore County tested negative for E. coli contamination. A whistleblower inside DPW tells Fox 45 News he's questioning those test results.
Those locations should be random. The fact that you go back and test the same locations again and again is not a truly random sample. I think I compare it to doing a poll. If you're always polling the same people, you tend to get the same answers.
Meantime, you can find the latest boil water map, which updated at 9 o'clock tonight, and our interview with that DPW employee on our website, foxbaltimore.com. The water crisis is just the most recent in a series of problems for the Department of Public Works. Fox 45's Amy Simpson is taking a look back at some of the department's biggest controversies.
For the agency that's tasked with providing quite a few essential services, Baltimore City's DPW once again finds itself in some troubled water. For another day, water continues to flow down these West Baltimore streets. Fire hydrant outside of Engine 8, and here at the corner of North Arlington and Riggs Avenue. Getting flushed after contaminated water was first discovered in the area on Friday.
This is the first time that I found out about this today.
The discovery of E. coli and coliform in the water is just the latest blunder facing Baltimore's Department of Public Works, which is also facing criticism for how and when it alerted the public to the problem.
You know, it feels like the Department of Public Works put the city of Baltimore on hold this weekend.
In March of this year, state environmental officials came in and took control of the city-owned Back River wastewater treatment plant in Dundalk as residents complained about solids floating in Back River and the ever-frequent stench of sewage lingering in the air. DPW insists the city's wastewater treatment work is not the source of how bacteria made it into the water supply.
We are confident that these positive test results are not associated with our 3 water treatment plants.
But city residents also continue to bemoan the fact that weekly recycling pickup has yet to return, often leaving overflowing bins filled with cans and cardboard up and down sidewalks or alleyways. City Councilman Yitzi Schleifer has been an outspoken critic of DPW.
This is an agency plagued with so many issues.
Now frustrated by how Public Works is dealing with the latest crisis.
This is the agency that's in charge of our water supply. And this situation has confirmed my greatest fears, is that here you have an agency that is not transparent, that is not equitable, that is not accountable, and when we turn on the faucet, we're relying on them to tell us the truth whether or not the water's clean.
From a consent decree to illegal dumping and soaring water bills, DPW Director Jason Mitchell did inherit some of the city's most chronic problems. But this latest crisis with water in West Baltimore.
DPW proactively tests 90 locations and have a self-reported this issue in an abundance of caution to the public.
Once again, putting the spotlight firmly on DPW and its leader, one of the highest paid officials in Baltimore City, with a yearly salary of $245,000.
And given these ongoing problems with DPW, today I asked Mayor Brandon Scott's office if the mayor has confidence in Director Jason Mitchell. This afternoon, a spokesperson tells me the mayor does in fact have confidence in Mitchell and the DPW staff. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
The Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, or NACA, is returning to Baltimore on affordable housing and mortgages starting tomorrow. City Councilwoman Odette Ramos has warned against working with the group, which was responsible for the chaos at a city council meeting in October. NACA is HUD approved. However, the organization did confirm to Fox 45 that participants in that disruptive meeting were required by the group to attend. New tonight, an Annapolis man facing federal charges for allegedly threatening a member of Congress. Prosecutors say 39-year-old Justin Kucha sent a message on an event management website saying that he was going to kill that member of Congress. CNN is reporting that the congressman is Ted Cruz. The threat was reported in July. The suspect was in court in Baltimore today. If convicted, he could face up to 5 years in prison. A week of celebration here in Maryland, the unique experience you'll get to have during this year's Fleet Week that we haven't had in a long time. Ahead on the late edition, Mayor Brandon Scott gives a late-night update on E. coli contamination in city water, how all Baltimoreans could see the crisis reflected in their upcoming utility bills. Maryland's Fleet Week is underway. The week-long celebration kicked off today with a ceremony in the Inner Harbor. It started with a pre-show featuring the Marine Corps Silent Drill Platoon, Navy Ceremonial Band, and more. For the first time in 3 years, you'll have the chance to meet our servicemen and women from the Marines, Coast Guard, and the Navy. Megan Gilland and photojournalist Kenny Christopher have a sneak peek of what you can expect this year.
Flying 300 to 400 feet above.
Eagle over deck.
A Seahawk MH-60 Sierra approaches landing.
I'm just grateful to be out here.
Seaman Braden Abbott joined the Navy 2 years ago. It is his first time on a military helicopter.
Seeing what it's going to be like for the rest of my naval career.
The target, a Navy warship flight deck on the USS Carter Hall.
We are a amphibious ship about 610 feet long.
And currently moving down the Chesapeake Bay.
This is historic waters. These Maryland waters have bore witness to different battles that we fought early in our history.
On deck, roughly 400 sailors and Marines.
I'm a gunner's mate, so I'm in charge of the armory, any ordnance evolutions, any gun shoots, from anything from the 25 millimeter down, that's me.
An electronics shop, LPO. I run the electronics shop, so all the exterior communications, interior communications, the radar, the navigation equipment, we take charge of that.
Yes, our job is to move Marines from ships to shore to take over beaches.
But today...
All right, this is the tricky part. Watch this going down.
There's a different mission. Moving at 11 to 12 knots, the USS Carter Hall is sailing into Baltimore for Fleet Week, giving locals a chance to meet these brave men and women.
Again, the fighting spirit that lived in those sailors of yesterday live in the sailors and Marines that are embarked on this ship today.
To understand their commitment,
they eagerly stood forward and said, I will defend the greater promise of America.
And to simply get a chance to say hello.
This is everything for me, because I've never been able to really show all of my family and friends what I do.
For retail specialist, Senior Chief Petty Officer Jamie Francis and Senior Chief Culinary Specialist Stacy Washington, putting feet on the ground here is a homecoming.
Honestly, it's just like a dream come true. To be from Baltimore and to come back here, it's definitely a one-in-a-lifetime experience.
Thanks for everyone for coming out today.
I'm Megan Gilland, FOX45 News.
And Baltimore is getting its first predominantly black sailing team. African Diaspora Maritime is looking to assemble a group of sailors here in Baltimore to compete in the America's Cup, one of the oldest and most prestigious sailing competitions in the world. State leaders supporting the effort say that training programs for young sailors will also help teach them valuable life skills.
And these skills are going to be needed to expand the knowledge of these young people in their futures, even if they choose not to continue with competitive sailing. But as we all talk about STEM and how it can, change lives.
Leaders of the group say that they are committed to training their team and building a high-tech boat to make the Maryland sailing team one of the best in the world.
It's been a gray and rainy day, but now things are starting to quiet down, and we're seeing mostly dry conditions with the exception of a few showers. Temperatures over Baltimore sit at 70 with overcast skies. Winds are out of the northeast around 9 miles per hour, and it's much quieter than it was this evening when we had the rain across the state. Now we're seeing temperatures in the 60s and in the 70s. La Plata, one of the warm spots, currently at 73 degrees, but we'll see these numbers fall. Here's a look on the HD radar. Notice that we are still mostly dry here in the Baltimore area, but we're keeping track of a few showers, mainly toward Annapolis and along the coast to areas west of the bay. Now, those will gradually taper. We're talking showers through midnight. Then it'll be much nicer and drier tomorrow as temperatures reach the 80s. So it'll be warmer, too. As we head into the weekend, we stay mostly dry But next week, we have our next chance for rain, and it looks like it'll be an unsettled pattern with multiple days with showers. Notice as we get close to midnight, we're not seeing any green on here. We're staying mostly dry. We'll have a few passing clouds, then we're waking up to a mix of sunshine and clouds around 7 a.m. There is the chance for a few isolated showers, mainly toward western Maryland, but those will gradually taper heading into the afternoon. Expect again a mix of sunshine and clouds before those clouds clear. We'll stay nice and clear overnight and into Friday morning. We'll wake up to lots of sunshine, but temperatures only in the 50s and the 60s, so you may need a jacket. But by the afternoon, those highs reach the 70s and the 80s. It'll be a pretty nice and pleasant day. So we do have that isolated chance for showers tomorrow. Those will be very early in the morning. Then we stay dry as we finish out the week. Next week, however, we will have the daily chance at least for a few spotty showers, so you may need the umbrellas at times. We're keeping watch on Danielle, a Category 1 hurricane at this point. It will continue to weaken as it's in cooler waters than the northern Atlantic. Then we're also watching Earl. The system has the potential to become the first major hurricane. It could reach Category 4 strength with winds of 130 miles per hour. It could have impacts on Bermuda, but we're not expecting any local impacts with that. Now, we're keeping watch on two areas in the Atlantic Basin. One has a high chance of formation over the next few days. The other has a low chance of formation. However, it's expected to emerge into this yellow area, and that's where we could see some development. 66 for the low temperature tonight. We still have that chance for a few stray showers. Then tomorrow, 82 and mostly dry. After that, 84 on Friday with sunshine, 85 on Saturday. Then heading into the upcoming week, temperatures will be in the 80s with a chance for showers. Back to you.
Former Trump advisor and confidant Steve Bannon indicted on federal charges. How he's expected to respond to the charges tomorrow. You know, for most of us, Friday is payday, but will that be the case for Lamar Jackson? QB1 updates his deadline for contract talks ahead of Week 1.
Lamar Jackson is focused on this season and bringing the Ravens a Super Bowl, but the offseason talk hasn't necessarily been about the former MVP's play. Contract negotiations have taken center stage as Lamar enters the final year of his rookie deal. Without an extension, Jackson would be eligible for free agency following the season, but the Ravens would likely use a franchise tag, keeping him with the team. Jackson, who doesn't have an agent, has said in the past that Week 1 would be the deadline for talks. That will come 2 days before the Ravens open their season with the Jets.
Kickoff, I would not be talking about a contract. I'm thinking straight Jets around kickoff time. The end of this week, Friday.
It's definitely interesting, though, how it's going for sure. But nobody really knows what's going on. He's his own agent, so I guess whatever conversations are happening, hopefully they're good. Hopefully they can get done pretty soon here. And but I have no doubt he'll be here for his whole career. So I'm excited about that, being his teammate for a long time.
And we will certainly be keeping an eye on that in the coming days. This series is especially crucial in the O's postseason push. Best case scenario, they split with Toronto, finishing the night 2.5 back of that final wild card. Worst case, they end the night trailing their AL East foe by 4.5 games. Tyler Wells making his first start since July 27th. O's bats providing the run support early on. Ryan Mountcastle singles down the right field line. Anthony Santander scores from first. And the O's take a 1-0 lead. Dean Kramer would enter in the third. The Jays have a 3-1 lead here, and the O's go on to fall 4-1, the final score. Coming up tonight, PG County's own Francis Tiafo becomes the first American man to make the U.S. Open semi since 2006. That and more when Sports Unlimited returns.
Marilyn Mosby back in court today for a pretrial hearing. Where the trial process goes from here and what kind of witnesses we could see. And a one-on-one or one-of-a-kind housing opportunity for on the way that Baltimore first responders, why the program began and who qualifies for housing. The third week of the Maryland State Fair starts tomorrow, and if you haven't made it to the fair this week, is your last chance. It wraps up this weekend. On the last day of the Maryland State Fair, Sunday, September 11th, you could meet your favorite Fox 45 news anchors and reporters and meteorologists. A few of us present company might be there. Make sure you stop by and say hi.
We have received clearance from MDE to lift the precautionary boil water advisory immediately for a portion of Baltimore City and the area of concern in Baltimore County.
Optimism from city leaders after the latest round of water tests, but in an exclusive interview with Fox 45 News, a whistleblower questions DPW's testing strategies.
The motions hearing today is the preamble to what looks like to being the clash of the titans.
Marilyn Mosby back in court ahead of her trial in less than 2 weeks. How today's rulings could influence both sides. And a shooting happens just steps from a Baltimore City school. An update on the investigation as the city's youth violence continues.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News Late Edition.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson. Mayor Brandon Scott holds a 9 o'clock briefing tonight, giving an update on the city's contaminated water supply, and it's welcome news for many. Now, that boil water advisory is being lifted in several areas, but West Baltimore residents should still be on alert.
The reason there is a partial lifting and not a full lifting is that DPW is awaiting analytical data from the laboratory to confirm that there is no E. coli in the samples taken within the required boil water advisory and remaining area.
Well, the mayor also mentioned Baltimore City residents will receive a 25% discount on next month's water bill, regardless of where they live. Now, here's a look at the revised impact map on the city's website. The smaller square shows the original impact area, while the dotted outline shows the current boil water advisory, now confined entirely to West Baltimore. A former DPW employee is coming forward saying the agency's process for gathering test results shouldn't be trusted. Fox 45's Jeff Abel shares that perspective tonight in an exclusive interview.
We're disguising the employee's identity because he fears retaliation. But tonight, he's raising some real questions whether the city's water test will be true test.
There is a culture of retaliation.
He's an employee at Baltimore's Department of Public Works who simply could not stand by without revealing the missteps in the city's probe of dirty water. His chief concern surrounds the city's delay in notifying the public about possible contaminants in their water.
The concerns are how little information was shared with the public initially, but yet privately information was being shared. Council members were being notified. An email was sent to police personnel not to drink their water. This seems like there was a decision made within the notification process of the Department of Public Works to triage people and their health based upon their zip code and their role.
The delay, he says, not only put people's health in danger, but also delayed the investigation because public input is key, he says, in tracing the source of the contaminants.
That cost us time. That cost us any real idea of how far this catastrophe is unfolding. And it put people's lives in danger.
To date, we have received 25 results back. All results were negative except for one location.
At a news conference today, the director of Public Works announced that the department is now taking hourly samples of water in the affected areas. But this employee questions if they will yield accurate results because often the tests, he says, are not random enough.
Those locations should be random. The fact that you go back and test the same locations again and again is not a truly random sample. I think I compare it to doing a poll. If you're always polling the same people, you tend to get the same answers.
He also questions why investigators independent of the city haven't been called in to test the water and issue independent findings. Instead, the city is performing the test at its own laboratory.
A truly independent third party needs to come in and say, yes, you're safe now.
You have my word, Baltimore, that we will get this issue resolved in a timely fashion.
After public scrutiny, the employee believes the city may now be on the right track after a delayed start, which he's convinced was fueled with the wrong intentions.
Your media relations people should be only responsible for putting out clear facts to the public for their consumption, and not how to spin something to make it look a little better or a little bit worse.
The city maintains it has been in complete compliance with state guidelines throughout this investigation. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby in court today to address several pretrial motions ahead of her federal trial. The Mosby team's motion to exclude federal experts from testifying was denied, as was an attempt to redact how Mosby spent money pulled from her retirement account. But the request to have prior investigations barred was granted. Prosecutors want to prevent Mosby's team from bringing up their arguments that the case is vindictive or racially motivated. That was granted. The request to exclude defense experts from testifying was partially granted. When pressed by our Mackenzie Frost, Marilyn Mosby stayed relatively quiet.
Ms. Mosby, did you launch the business after you lost the primary or while you were in office still?
So when you asked, was that a lie or was that the truth? No comment.
Have you had any conversations with Zai, your spokesperson, who made those comments?
No comment.
Well, jury selection will begin late next week.
Mosby's final pretrial hearing is scheduled for a week from today. Then the jury trial begins September 19th. Fox 45 News will have complete coverage of City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby's trial. You can follow along on air and on our website, foxbaltimore.com. A cascade of shootings today in West and Southwest Baltimore. One woman is killed and at least 2 others are hurt. One of the wounded, a 15-year-old student at Carver Vocational High School. He was shot across the street from that school just after 4 o'clock. And it's the latest example of violence around Baltimore schools. Keith Daniels shares concerns from community members in the wake of today's shooting.
Well, another school student shot, and tonight police say the search is on for that suspect.
At the corner of North Smallwood and Pressman Street, all clear now. No signs of the gun violence that unfolded moments before that left a 15-year-old student at Carver Vocational High School shot.
They had the little markers going all the way up the sidewalk. So
Roosevelt McNeil detailing the scene he saw. The student shot on this block, so close to his school's campus.
Firearms everywhere, everybody can get their hands on them.
Police say a group of students were walking down Smallwood at about 4 o'clock after school had dismissed when they heard gunfire. That's when one of the kids felt something had hit him. Police say he ran home where they discovered a gunshot wound. A bullet grazed his head. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
Wow. It's madness, man. I mean, people from all over the city come to this area, so it could have been anybody.
The shooting near Carver is the second time in less than a week that someone has been shot outside a Baltimore school after classes were dismissed. On Friday, someone shot and killed 17-year-old Jeremiah Brogdon on a parking lot at Mergenthaler Vocational Technical High School. Police say an argument triggered the violence. A 17-year-old student from another school arrested and charged in the murder. Mournful reaction at that shooting, disdain at this one.
I think it's an outrage. They just don't care, man. They really don't.
Well, the circumstances of the shooting remains unclear. The investigation continues. Meantime, police say if you have any information about this shooting, you're urged to call police. You can remain anonymous and could be eligible for a reward by calling Metro Crime Stoppers. Reporting tonight at City Police Headquarters, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Howard County Schools hears public comment on their redistricting plan, why frustrated parents say the new map is far from the best solution.
And overnight will gradually dry out as temperatures fall to the mid-60s. Then we're back to warmer temperatures and drier conditions tomorrow. I'll let you know what to expect as the week ends coming up in my full forecast.
Here's a look at today's top trending stories. Number one, a $575,000 settlement will be handed out surrounding the failed gun trace task force in Baltimore. Now, that stems from a 2015 traffic stop in which 3 Baltimore City police officers recovered a gun from under a car's passenger seat. Plaintiffs claim the police had no probable cause to search the car in the first place. Former officer Marcus Taylor, one of the 3 involved in that stop, is serving an 18-year prison sentence on racketeering and conspiracy charges. Number 2, Howard County holds its first public comment meeting regarding school redistricting tonight. The new maps would reflect the addition of a 13th high school in Howard County and impact more than 2,500 students. Now, according to the superintendent's proposal, High School 13 would receive students from Hammond, Howard, and Long Reach high schools. Opponents raise concerns about that process.
One would expect that redistricting for High School 13 would populate the new school with students who live closest to that school. That's not what the superintendent's proposal does. There are 1,902 students who could be attending their closest school in this plan, but do not.
Well, there will be at least one more public hearing before a decision is made. Number 3, a unique housing opportunity will soon be available for first responders in Baltimore. Today, city leaders broke ground on Guardian House, a new community designed to offer affordable housing. It's located along South Gay Street. The housing will be available for any first responders making less than 80% of Baltimore's median income. The complex includes 66 residential units and retail space. Coming up, a Las Vegas investigative reporter is killed on his front lawn. How a recent story he wrote may have led police to a suspect. We are following breaking news right now. Tonight in Las Vegas, police have arrested a suspect in the killing of a former mob beat reporter in his front yard. The suspect vehicle was spotted and towed from a public administrator's home He was the subject of a recent investigation from reporter Jeff Gearman. Now, that man called the reporter reporting on him a smear campaign, saying Gearman was a bully. Police conducted a stakeout at the suspect's house all afternoon, including an appearance from the SWAT team. Neighbors say they were horrified to hear of the killing.
Crazy. It's just crazy. This is a really nice community, so to have this is unbelievable.
Our Sinclair sister station in Las Vegas says police are only confirming warrants were served at the Clark County official's home. Former Trump advisor Steve Bannon has been indicted in New York for his fundraising efforts to build a border wall. The charges are based on the same charges he faced in 2020 when he was pardoned by then President Trump. Now, those pardons don't apply to state and local investigations. Bannon is expected to turn himself in tomorrow.
Well, it is much quieter now than it was several hours ago. We've got mostly dry conditions over much of the state. Temperatures currently sit at 70 over Baltimore with overcast skies. Winds are out of the northeast around 9 miles per hour. Now here's a look at the HD radar. Many of us dry now. There are a couple of showers, light rain toward Annapolis and along areas just west of the bay, but those showers will gradually taper overnight. Otherwise, temperatures across the state are mainly in the 60s and in the 70s. Many of us still dealing with those cloudy skies, but we're looking at more sunshine and nicer conditions tomorrow. First, overnight, we fall to the 50s and the 60s. Then heading into the afternoon, it's back to the 80s for a much warmer day than what we had today. 84 on Friday, and then we're on an upward trend, 85 as we head into Saturday. And notice as we head into the weekend, we do stay nice and dry. Here's a look at the future scan. Notice around midnight, we don't see any more green around the area. We stay mostly dry. Then as we continue into about 7 a.m., most of us will wake up to clouds, but there is the chance for a few stray showers toward western Maryland. Heading into the afternoon, those taper and will stay pretty dry. Then overnight, we'll have clearing skies. We'll wake up to lots of sunshine on Friday. And even as we head into the afternoon, we keep those sunny skies. It should be a nice and pleasant day, a really nice way to start the weekend. Heading into Saturday, we also stay dry. That should be a great day to visit the state fair. On Sunday, though, we have the chance for a few stray showers. That'll be followed by more rain on Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday of next week as we deal with an unsettled pattern. We're keeping watch on Hurricane Danielle. That system is expected to lose strength as it moves over the open Atlantic and over cooler waters. Then we're keeping watch on Earl. That system is expected to strengthen, possibly into a Category 4 hurricane, and that would make it the first major hurricane of the 2022 season. It's not expected to lead to any local impacts. There are two other areas that we're keeping an eye on. The first is in red. That wave has a high chance of formation over the next couple days, and it could result in our next depression. Then the area in yellow, that's where we expect a wave to emerge off the coast of Africa. It has a low chance of formation right now. So those are just two areas to watch, especially as we get close to the peak of hurricane season. 66 for the low tonight. We still have that chance for a few early showers, but after midnight, we stay mostly dry. Tomorrow, we're looking at clearing skies and plenty of sunshine by the afternoon. Temperatures reach 82. Then as we head into Friday, a really great way to start the weekend. We're talking warmer temperatures, lots of sunshine, and also low humidity. 84 for the number, 85 on Saturday with partly cloudy skies. Then as we head into Sunday, 81. That will be our next chance for a few showers. Temperatures gradually rise to the mid-80s as we head into the middle of the week, but we'll still have the daily chance for rain. Back to you.
Thank you, Jasmine. And let's take a look at tomorrow's headlines right now. The Office of Employment Development is holding a hearing on tackling unemployment in Baltimore. NACA's Achieve the Dream event runs for 5 days. Councilwoman Odette Ramos opposes the group, and Fleet Week begins at select Baltimore locations. Visitors have a chance to explore Navy vessels as well as meet with sailors and researchers. Now, speaking of Fleet Week, all types of ships began arriving today for this week's main showcase. They'll be docked at various Baltimore locations for the next 4 days, available to tour between the hours of 10 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon. It's an educational experience, not just for those who choose to visit, but also for the sailors starting their careers.
I'm a gunner's mate, so I'm in charge of the armory, any ordnance evolutions, any gun shoots, from anything from the 25 millimeter down. That's me.
An electronics shop, LPO. I run the electronics shop, so all the exterior communications, interior communications, the radar, the navigation equipment, we take charge of that.
Seeing what it's going to be like for the rest of my naval career.
Well, the Fleet Week fun isn't over on Fox 45 Morning News. We'll be celebrating tomorrow, too. We'll be at Fort McHenry for Founders Day, and later in the morning, we'll have live interviews with the Explosive Ordnance Disposal Team in front of the USS Minnesota at the Inner Harbor.
A new study just released on our mental health, why treatment may be critical to avoiding addiction. I'm Liz Bonus. We explain why. Hey there, hello to you. This new CDC study says 1 in 4 young people in the pandemic needed mental health help. One reason to address that, providers say, is so you don't self-medicate and raise the odds of addiction.
I was alcoholic by the time I was 16. It's gotten me numerous prison numbers. Then it went to harder drugs.
Nick Mackey knows where that path can lead.
Me and my dad used to get high together. We both fell out in 2017. I woke up, found my dad dead. So it just got worse from there.
64 days clean, Nick says what made the difference this time was reaching out to a treatment center that focuses on treating mental health with addiction. They do that here at Ohio's DeCoach Rehabilitation Center.
If we can get past the substance abuse, we can address the mental health, the trauma, the terrible traumas, then he's going to have a fighting chance of success.
You see, much of the time the drug and alcohol use starts as an attempt to numb the deeper pain of depression, anxiety, or some other mental health concern, according to the DeCoach team. Realizing that, Nick says, is life-changing.
I'm 30 years old and I don't have nothing to show for it. And like, me and my dad have the same name, and I have a 4-month-old son that also has our name. And it's like, I don't want him to go and talk to me to a rock or always hear about the bad. It's like, I want a legacy. I want to leave behind a legacy.
Nick says even if you have tried before and not been able to stay clean, addressing mental health concerns can help set you up for success. And medical reporter Liz Bonus, now back to you.
Battle of the Birds at Camden Yards as the AL wild card heats up after dropping 3 of 4 to their divisional foe. How the O's stack up as the season winds down. Finally tonight, the Orioles are putting smiles on the faces of Baltimore in more than just winning games. Second baseman Taryn Vavra stopped by the University of Maryland Children's Hospital to hang out with some of the kids. He played Mario Kart. My daughter and I love that game with 14-year-old Evan Cooper, who also plays second base. The games they played were donated to the hospital through Major League Baseball. What a moment for Taryn and Evan. I know their time was appreciated. Well, that's all for us on the late edition. I'm Kai Jackson. Here's Rocco DeSangro with Sports Unlimited. Rocco.
Yes, sir, Kai. Although it might feel like it, this series against the Blue Jays isn't necessarily make or break. Now, that doesn't mean it's not important towards the postseason push. The O's can't afford to fall behind too many games, but they play Toronto, the team in possession of that final wildcard spot, 6 more times to close out the year. O's bats providing the run support early on. Ryan Mountcastle going to single down the right field line. Anthony Santander scores from first. O's take a 1-0 lead. I guess we might not have that video, but I'll talk you through what happened. Tyler Wells made his first start since July 27th. He went 2 innings, allowed 1 earned on 2 hits with a strikeout. Dean Kramer would enter in the third. Jays took a 3-1 lead on an Alejandro Kirk bloop single, and the O's fall 4-1 the final. They're now 4.5 back of that final wild card spot.
Yeah, disappointed, but it's a really good team, and you know, I thought we got shut down offensively tonight. I think those nights do happen, and unfortunately for us, tonight was one of those nights. We pitched well enough to win. We just we couldn't get anything going offensively.
So Rashad Bateman hasn't shied away from his new role atop the depth chart as wide receiver 1. Morgan Adsick caught up with Bateman one-on-one as the Ravens gear up for their season opener on the road against the Jets.
How ready are you to get this thing going on Sunday and truly find out a little bit more about what you guys are?
I would definitely say we're all excited. It's been a lot of hot days, hard days going to work, but I think we are ready to put it on show now.
Do you think week 1 can be a distraction in a way of just so much anxiety and storylines behind it that you have to kind of calm down by kickoff and get ready because you didn't get to experience that last year?
It definitely can be for sure. As a player, you got to do a good job, you know, staying humble, staying in your zone, and, you know, don't peak too early. So I think we're doing a good job of that.
How's the connection going with Lamar? We know all the contract talks and you guys defending him and all the noise that goes into it, but he's ready to play in week 1. I know you're ready to catch some balls from him. What have you seen from him so far and just his transition to game week?
I would just say leadership, man. Just being a leader out on the field, getting guys where they need to go, pushing guys hard, holding guys accountable. It's been a pleasure to see because we all get to see that he's hungry as well, like he's always been. We all know he's underrated, so we all just kind of ready to go out there and play.
So PG County's own Francis Tiafo has taken the tennis world by storm. The Maryland native upset legend Rafa Nadal in the 4th round of the U.S. Open, punching his ticket to the quarterfinals. He looked to advance to his first major semi of his career. Tiafo down 9th-ranked Andrei Rublev in straight sets to become the first American man to make the U.S. Open semis since 2006. Look at the dance, the emotion. You got to love it right there. He'll take the court again on Friday.
See a lot of guys playing well. Tommy's playing great, so we're all pushing each other. You know, I so happen to be a guy doing a run right now, but you know, I'm sure come next year in the slams, they'll be doing just exactly the same. Everyone's super capable. American tennis is in a great place, so we're all starting to really get into our primes, and we'll see where that takes us.
Listen, there are a ton of people back here in Maryland pulling for Francis in his magical run at the U.S. Open. That's it for this edition of Sports Unlimited. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.